towards a potential f-pawn down the board to build more pressure. Imagine if he gets f4, f5 in, that could offer some real play on the king side. So black always has to watch out. There's this plan, and on the other side of the board, there is another plan that we often speak about in the Carlsbad structure, which is the minority attack. The aim is that you've got 2 pawns as white on the queen side. Your opponent has 4 pawns on the queen side, but you're the one who starts pushing these pawns to create a weakness. b4, b5, also a very thematic way to proceed.
Absolutely, and the reason why is because a pawn chain is only as strong as its base pawn, and the pawn on b7 is very hard to get to. But if this pawn ends up like this, and there's only the c6 pawn, you can see a way to attack that pawn. So in this position, b4 is one option, f4 looks like another, and I like Gukesh's last move. He brought his queen to c8, a subtle take control of his f5 square. It looks weird because you didn't connect your rooks, but he's going after the f5 square well before white can push the pawn.
Really nicely pointed out there. You want to try and trade white's light squared bishop, which if you just look at the position, you realize is a lot more active than black's light squared bishop. This is an all-Indian face-off, a battle of generations with Vidit, who has been at the forefront of the Indian team for so many years, against Gukesh, who currently is world number 8 with an over 2750 rating. And I know chat's going to be super divided on this, but we've got to ask them who they think is going to take this one. It is Vidit versus Gukesh. Who do you guys think will win this big battle between these two? Gukesh currently at 2 points, leading the tournament. Vidit at 1, but it could have been a different story. So close to winning his game against Maxime.
And Gukesh already beat one of the old guard of Indian chess, or older guard, they're not old, but he beat Hari with the black pieces. So with the black piece against Vidit, can he go 2 for 2 in that dynamic? I don't think Vidit wants any part of that number, but looking at this position, I think that both sides are playing this quite naturally and logically. And so for Vidit, the big question is, will he go for the queen side or the king side? Because we're talking f4 and b4 and maybe an e4 at some moment, but the point is that he has to choose his flank.
And that game on our screen feels like center court. You got Vidit against Gukesh. Look at how focused they are. They are sort of the focus for the entire audience that's there. This is the game that everyone's going to be on the lookout for. Will it be Gukesh taking that lead, or will Vidit bounce back? We will come back to this because it promises to be quite a fascinating middle game. But Robert, let's continue with some of our other games, and I want to take a look at 3 times World Blitz.
Queen pawns, and then black worked around it. Let's get some activity for the pieces. And Tanya, in this type of position, black is very solid, but it's clear white should be better. You have a knight on e5, the black knight is on the side of the board, but because there are no immediate targets, maybe it's not so clear how to take advantage of this offside knight, which did quickly go back towards the center.
Really nice to make sure that you can get your pieces at the right square. We saw some very natural moves being played, but g4, definitely a committal one, and white wants to just go all the way forward. You want to say A, B, and C this time. After h4, get that g5 pawn, and notice that bishop on d3, which is already eyeing the h7 square, and suddenly queen f2 as a move makes sense. In certain positions, that queen can
I've seen enough things to lose hope. Everywhere you're still going, I am even stronger now. Evil is lurking around you, and maybe I'm mistaken. You know I'm feeling alright. Like something on my face, something in my veins, still hurts. And I don't know what it takes, don't know what it takes to move on. The more that I've done, the less I've become. I just live forever within our souls. Some do even know, and life will go on. And then we'll become just nothing at all. Just nothing. Just nothing. Just nothing. Just nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And then we'll become just nothing at all.
second rank here. But what Gukesh might also rely on is if these queens get traded, you would think that has to be winning for white. The queens come off the board. But if the white king is over here and the black king, this is what he's doing. He's saying maybe we trade queens, but my king is so fast over here, I can try to go for the white queenside pawns.
That is very resourceful of Gukesh, because one would think, 1 second, Vidit's got an extra piece. He's even taken the pawn, which was there for the extra piece. This has to be completely winning. But it is not completely winning, because if both the pawns on the queen side disappear, a knight and king is not going to be enough, even with queens on the board.
That's correct. And we see a4 played. Great recognition by Vidit. He has full board awareness. This queen cannot deliver a check. Tana, you point out the knight is so strong. Stops the check on f4. Also stops checks on the second rank. Queen d5 by Gukesh. Is queen d6 a threat? That's a big question, because if the queens come off, you think white has to be winning, but the black king would be so close to those pawns.
And he avoids it. He says, I don't have time to calculate, but I'm just going to avoid any such questions. Now, if Vidit gives a check on the 6th rank, the queens will get traded, and he doesn't. He falls back with the queen to c3, so keeping all the pieces alive, and it's not over yet.
Not even close. This knight needs to get into the game, but as soon as the knight moves away, the queen will have so many checks against the white king. So Gukesh trying to figure out where does his king belong. I didn't think it should go to b6. It feels like you're walking into a checkmating now.
But you want to keep your king close to the queenside pawn, so not having enough time to calculate, it is a dangerous, instinctive decision that is taken by Gukesh. He wants to make sure if the queens can get off the board, black can get to those queenside pawns. Queen e3 check played. Black has to again take a decision. Do you go on the 6th rank or do you fall back? He does it. He's playing with fire, but he doesn't have time to calculate. It's all intuition right now.
And he's tempting Vidit to play b5 check. He wants him to win this pawn a7. That should be winning, right? You're up a knight and a pawn. But with the black king sliding in here, white's pawns are very vulnerable. Vidit down under 10 seconds. He very smartly doesn't touch the pawns.
That was so tempting. And look at that trap that Gukesh set of giving up another pawn just to make sure that you can get to those white pawns. Let's also remind everyone the white knight has to stay close to the white king. And Gukesh playing very committal chess. He's asking big questions to Vidit, who's got 7 seconds on the clock.
And Vidit brings his knight in. There are no checks against the white king. So he brings knight to f4, attacking the queen on d5. And after queen to f5 here, the knight's under attack. You have to figure out what to do.
And Robert, we've got a very special guest who's joining us. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, after his win against Vincent. Maxime, just in time to take us through this crazy game that's going on.
Yeah, look at Vidit. You disappointed that man yesterday by...
Seems like he's coming back.
With the extra piece? No chances for black anymore?
No, I mean, there's been much chances of stalemate that I can think of, but that's not happening.
Well, you do know how to make great comebacks. Alexander Grishuk beat Arjun.